Have you ever wondered why a single sentence from someone can stay in your mind for days? Someone says a few words, and suddenly your mood changes. Your mind keeps replaying the moment again and again. You begin thinking about what they meant, why they said it, and whether it says something about you. Hours pass, sometimes even days, yet the moment still lives inside your mind. But here is the strange truth. The words themselves lasted only a few seconds, and so why does the pain last so much longer? Buddhist wisdom has a powerful answer to this question. An answer that has helped people free their minds for thousands of years. It reveals something most people never realize. The world does not actually have the power to hurt you the way you think it does. In fact, the greatest pain we feel often comes from something much closer, something happening inside our own mind. Once you truly understand this one Buddhist truth, something remarkable begins to change. Criticism stops controlling your emotions. Other people's opinions lose their power over your peace. And situations that once felt overwhelming suddenly become much easier to handle, because you begin to see life in a completely different way. And when this understanding becomes clear, you discover something incredibly freeing. No one can truly hurt you once your mind learns how to let go. The mind creates the second arrow. Or the Buddha once explained suffering through a simple but very powerful teaching known as the second arrow. Imagine you are walking through the forest and suddenly an arrow hits you. It hurts. The pain is real. Anyone in that situation would feel pain. This first arrow represents the difficult moments that naturally happen in life. Someone criticizes you. A friend disappoints you. A stranger speaks harshly to you. Someone misunderstands your intentions. These things are part of being human. No one can go through life without facing moments like this. This is the first arrow. But the Buddha said that most of our suffering does not come from the first arrow. It comes from the second one. The second arrow is what the mind does after the event happens. After hearing a hurtful comment, the moment itself may last only a few seconds. The words are spoken, and the situation ends. But the mind does not let it end. Instead, the mind begins replaying the moment again and again. It starts analyzing every detail of what happened. Why did they say that? What did they really mean? Were they trying to insult me? Maybe they think badly about me. Maybe everyone else thinks the same thing. The mind begins creating story after story around that single moment. Now the pain that lasted a few seconds starts growing into something much bigger. The mind carries it for hours, sometimes for days. Some people even carry these memories for years. In this way, we shoot the second arrow into ourselves. The first arrow was the situation that happened, but the second arrow is the pain created by the mind repeating and holding on to the event. The Buddha taught that we may not always be able to stop the first arrow. Life will still bring criticism, misunderstandings, and difficult moments. But we have a choice about the second arrow. We can either keep replaying the event in our mind, feeding it with more thoughts and emotions, or we can simply notice what happened and allow the moment to pass. When the mind stops repeating the story, the pain begins to fade naturally. The memory loses its strength. The emotional weight becomes lighter. Understanding this teaching changes the way you experience life. Instead of fighting every difficult moment, you begin to watch how the mind reacts. And slowly, you learn a powerful skill. You stop shooting the second arrow. Your interpretation creates your experience. One of the most important truths in Buddhist wisdom is that events themselves do not control our emotions. What truly shapes our experience is the meaning our mind gives to those events. Two people can face the exact same situation and feel completely different emotions. Imagine two people hearing the same critical comment from someone. One person feels deeply hurt and thinks about it all day. Then the other person simply shrugs it off and continues with their life. The words were the same. The situation was the same. But their experience was completely different. Why? Because the mind does not simply hear events. The mind interprets them. When something happens, the mind immediately begins creating explanations and stories. If someone looks at you seriously, the mind might think, they must be judging me. If someone does not reply to your message quickly, the mind might think, well, maybe they are ignoring me. If someone speaks sharply, the mind might think, they don't respect me. But in many cases, these are not facts. They are only interpretations created by the mind. The person who looked serious may simply be tired. The person who did not reply may be busy. The person who spoke sharply may be dealing with stress in their own life. Yet the mind quickly builds a story and begins reacting to that story as if it were the truth. This is how suffering often begins. The mind believes its interpretation without questioning it. And once the story is believed, emotions follow. Hurt, anger, frustration, and anxiety begin to grow. Buddhist teachings encourage us to become aware of this process. Instead of immediately believing every thought that appears in the mind, we learn to pause and observe. We begin to notice that many of our reactions are not caused by the event itself, but by the meaning we attach to it. When this awareness grows, something very powerful happens. We start giving less power to our assumptions. If someone says something negative, we listen calmly instead of instantly turning it into a personal attack. If someone behaves in an unexpected way, we become curious instead of immediately feeling offended. Slowly, the mind becomes less reactive. Situations that once felt very heavy begin to feel lighter. Small moments no longer turn into large emotional storms. Life begins to feel calmer. Not because the world has changed, but because the way we interpret the world has changed. And this is one of the quiet freedoms that Buddhist wisdom offers. When you understand that interpretation shapes experience, you realize something important. You may not control everything that happens in life, but you have great influence over how you experience it. You cannot control other people. One of the biggest reasons people feel hurt, frustrated, or disappointed in life is because they try to control something that was never truly in their control. They try to control other people. We want people to understand us correctly. We want them to treat us with respect. We want them to behave in ways that feel fair and kind. Deep inside, we hope that others will respond to us the way we expect. But life does not always work that way. Every person carries their own mind, their own emotions, their own fears, and their own life experiences. Well, what someone says or does often comes from things happening inside them that we cannot see. A person who had a difficult day may speak harshly without realizing it. A person who feels insecure may criticize others to feel better about themselves. A person who misunderstands you may react based on their own assumptions. Their behavior is shaped by their past, their habits, their emotions, and their level of awareness. Because of this, trying to control how other people think or behave often leads to constant frustration. You may explain yourself clearly, but someone may still misunderstand you. You may act with kindness, but someone may still respond negatively. You may try to avoid conflict, but someone may still judge you unfairly. This is part of human life. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering grows when we try to control things that belong to the nature of others. When we expect everyone to behave the way we want, We create expectations that reality cannot always fulfill. But when we understand that every person is walking their own path in life, something inside us begins to relax. We stop trying to control every reaction around us. Instead of asking, "Why did they act like this toward me?" we begin to see that people act according to their own state of mind. Some people are calm. Some people are confused. Some people are kind. Some people are struggling with emotions they cannot manage. And once we understand this, we stop taking everything personally. Not every harsh word is about you. Not every criticism is a reflection of your worth. Not every misunderstanding needs to disturb your peace. You begin to see that other people's behavior belongs to them, not to you. And this realization creates a quiet kind of freedom. You can still speak with kindness. You can still act with respect. You can still choose wisdom in your actions. But you no longer depend on others behaving perfectly in order to feel peaceful. Your peace no longer depends on controlling the world around you. It comes from understanding the simple truth that every person is responsible for their own mind. And when you truly accept that you cannot control other people, a heavy burden quietly disappears from your life. The ego turns small moments into big wounds. Many of the emotional wounds we experience in life do not come from the event itself, as they come from a hidden part of the mind that is always trying to protect an image of who we believe we are. This part of the mind is known as the ego. The ego quietly builds a picture of our identity. It creates ideas about how we should be seen by others. It wants to feel respected, appreciated, admired, and valued. It tells us things like, "I should be treated with respect. People should recognize my worth. They should understand me. There is nothing wrong with wanting respect or appreciation. These are natural human desires." But the problem begins when our sense of peace becomes dependent on protecting this image of ourselves. When someone says something that challenges that image, the ego immediately reacts. A simple comment can suddenly feel like a deep attack. If someone questions our opinion, the ego feels threatened. If someone criticizes our actions, the ego feels insulted. If someone ignores us, the ego feels rejected. What may have been a small moment becomes something much bigger inside the mind. The ego starts defending itself. It begins creating arguments in the mind. It replays the situation again and again, thinking about what should have been said, what should have been done, and how the other person was wrong. But the more the ego tries to defend itself, the more the pain grows. Buddhist teachings encourage us to observe the ego instead of blindly following it. When we begin to watch how the ego reacts, we start noticing something important. The ego is always trying to protect an idea of ourselves that is not fixed or permanent. Our identity changes throughout life. The person you were 10 years ago is not the same person you are today. Your thoughts, beliefs, and experiences have all evolved. Yet the ego behaves as if this image of ourselves must always be protected. Once we begin to see this clearly, something interesting happens. The reactions of the ego start losing their power. When someone criticizes you, instead of feeling deeply wounded, you begin to notice the ego trying to defend itself. You pause, you observe the reaction, and slowly, the intensity begins to fade. What once felt like a serious attack now appears as a small moment that quickly passes. Yet you no longer feel the need to defend your identity in every situation. You become calmer, more stable, less reactive, and in that calm space, the words and opinions of others lose much of their power to hurt you, because the ego is no longer turning small moments into big wounds. Everything in life is temporary. One of the deepest teachings in Buddhism is the understanding of impermanence. This teaching reminds us that nothing in life stays the same forever. Everything is constantly changing. Thoughts appear and disappear, emotions rise and fall, situations come and go. Even the most powerful moments in life eventually fade with time. But the human mind often behaves as if painful moments will last forever. When someone says something hurtful, the mind holds on to the memory as if it is something permanent. The moment may last only a few seconds in reality, but inside the mind, it can continue repeating again and again. You may find yourself thinking about the same situation hours later, sometimes even days later. The mind keeps replaying the moment as if it refuses to let it pass. But if we look closely at life, we begin to notice something very important. Nothing stays exactly the same. The strong emotion you felt yesterday is not exactly the same today. The anger that felt so intense in the moment slowly fades with time. The situation that once felt overwhelming eventually becomes a distant memory. This is the nature of life. Everything moves, everything changes. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering grows when we try to hold on to moments that were never meant to stay. The mind clings to the past. It grabs onto painful memories and refuses to release them. But when we truly understand impermanence, our relationship with these moments begins to change. Instead of holding on to them tightly, we allow them to move naturally. A painful thought appears and then fades. An uncomfortable emotion arises and then disappears. A difficult moment happens and then passes like a cloud moving across the sky. Just as the weather changes throughout the day, our inner experiences are always shifting. When we stop trying to freeze moments in our mind, the emotional weight becomes much lighter. You begin to realize that many things that once seemed so important slowly lose their significance over time. The comment that hurt you last week may no longer matter next month. Or the situation that once felt overwhelming may later appear small when seen from a distance. Understanding impermanence brings a quiet sense of peace. You no longer feel the need to hold on to every painful moment. Instead, you trust the natural movement of life. And when you allow experiences to come and go freely, the mind becomes calmer, lighter, and much less affected by the temporary events of the world. Compassion changes how you see people. When someone hurts us, the mind usually reacts in a very natural way. It feels anger. It feels resentment. It feels the desire to defend itself or to push the other person away. This reaction is common for almost everyone. When we feel attacked or disrespected, the mind quickly assumes that the other person meant to hurt us. But Buddhist wisdom invites us to look deeper into human behavior. Instead of only seeing the action, we begin to look at the state of mind behind the action. People often behave according to the emotions they are carrying inside themselves. A person filled with anger tends to speak with anger. A person filled with stress may react harshly without thinking. A person who feels insecure may criticize others in order to protect their own self-image. In many cases, the hurtful behavior we experience from others is not really about us. It is simply an expression of what is happening inside their mind. When someone is peaceful, they naturally spread peace. When someone is kind, their words and actions reflect kindness. But when someone is struggling internally, that struggle often appears in their behavior. They may become impatient, judgmental, or negative without even realizing it. Understanding this truth changes the way we see people. Instead of immediately reacting with anger, we begin to see that many people who hurt others are themselves dealing with confusion, fear, or emotional pain. This does not mean we must accept harmful behavior or allow people to treat us badly. Compassion does not mean weakness. It simply means understanding the deeper reasons behind people's actions. When you see someone acting harshly, you begin to recognize that their behavior is often connected to their own suffering. And when you see this clearly, something inside you begins to soften. Instead of carrying resentment for a long time, the mind becomes lighter. You realize that holding on to anger only creates more suffering inside yourself. Compassion allows you to release that burden. You may still set healthy boundaries. You may still choose distance from negative people. But inside your mind, there is less hatred and less emotional weight. You understand that every person you meet is carrying their own struggles, their own fears, and their own hidden pain. And when you see the world with this understanding, see the actions of others lose much of their power to hurt you. Compassion does not change other people instantly, but it changes the way their behavior affects your mind. And in that quiet shift, your inner peace becomes much stronger. True freedom comes from letting go. The final lesson is one of the most important realizations in Buddhist wisdom. Many people believe that peace will come when life becomes perfect. They believe that if everyone treats them kindly, if situations always go their way, and if nothing difficult happens, then they will finally feel calm and happy. But life does not work like this. No matter where you go or what you achieve, you will still meet difficult people. You will still face unexpected situations. You will still hear words that may not feel pleasant. If peace depends on the world always behaving the way we want, then peace will always remain fragile. Buddhist teachings offer a different path. Our true freedom does not come from controlling the outside world. It comes from learning how to release the grip our mind has on every experience. The mind often wants to hold on to everything. When someone praises us, the mind wants to keep that feeling forever. When someone criticizes us, the mind wants to fight the moment or replay it again and again. When something pleasant happens, the mind tries to hold on to it. When something unpleasant happens, the mind resists it strongly. This constant holding and resisting creates tension inside the mind. But when we learn the practice of letting go, something begins to change. Letting go does not mean ignoring life. It does not mean becoming cold or distant from the world. It simply means allowing experiences to pass without clinging to them. Praise comes, and we appreciate it, but we do not depend on it for our happiness. Criticism comes, and we listen calmly without letting it define our worth. Or difficult moments appear, and we allow them to pass instead of fighting them in our mind. The mind becomes more open and relaxed. Buddhist teachers often describe the mind as being like the sky. The sky remains vast and calm while clouds move through it. Some clouds are dark and heavy, others are light and beautiful. But the sky itself is never damaged by the clouds. In the same way, thoughts and emotions pass through the mind. Anger may appear for a moment. Sadness may arise for a while. But joy may also come and go. But when the mind stops clinging to these passing experiences, it remains stable beneath them. This is where true inner freedom begins. You still experience life fully. You still feel emotions. You still care about people and situations. But you are no longer controlled by every passing moment. Your peace becomes something deeper and more stable. Words lose their power to disturb you. Opinions lose their ability to define you. And situations lose their ability to shake your inner balance. You begin to move through life with quiet strength, and this is the state that Buddhist wisdom ultimately points toward. A mind that is calm, clear, and free. A mind that understands the nature of life and no longer clings to every passing moment. When you reach this understanding, you realize something profound. The world has not changed, but your relationship with the world has changed completely. And in that change, you discover a freedom that no one can take away. When you begin to understand these truths, something quiet but powerful starts to happen inside you. Life does not suddenly become perfect. People do not suddenly stop making mistakes. The world does not suddenly become easier, but your mind becomes different. The words that once stayed in your heart for days now pass like a small breeze. The situations that once disturbed your peace no longer have the same power over you. Yet you begin to see life more clearly. You understand that suffering often grows from the way the mind holds on to moments. And once you see this clearly, you slowly learn to release what was never meant to stay. This is the quiet strength that Buddhist wisdom points toward. A mind that is calm in the middle of chaos. A heart that does not easily react to every passing word. A deep inner stability that no one else can control. And when you live with this understanding, something beautiful begins to unfold. You move through life with more patience. You respond with more awareness. And you carry a peace that is no longer dependent on the behavior of others. Because you finally understand something that most people spend their whole lives searching for. Your peace does not belong to the world. It belongs to the way you choose to hold the world inside your mind. And once you truly see this, no one can take that peace away from you.